Hey everyone, welcome back. Today's video is a bit of a off the cuff kind of ramble. I haven't really organized any notes around this, so if you're someone who needs a little 2 minute kind of short how to resolve social anxiety in 2 minutes kind of video, I'm not your guy. This probably isn't your channel because I like to talk, and you probably are better switching off now. For anyone else who is actually interested in exploring this idea with me, then let's go ahead and talk about it here because I've got something that I feel like is an important key that I don't really see being discussed in the social anxiety space much. And it's something that I think is really important and really is central to the healing of social anxiety. So let's go ahead and get into it here. Uh, Before we do, let me just say really quick for anyone who's new here who doesn't know me, which is probably most of you because I'm a new channel, I'm a small channel. My name is Dave. I'm a coach, I'm a hypnotherapist, I'm an NLP practitioner. I've been coaching for about 6 or 7 years, and something like that, 6.5, something like that. And my focus is the psychedelic space. I'm a psychonaut. That's why I got into hypnosis and hypnotherapy and NLP and all that. I love psychedelics. I've been doing them the majority of my adult life. In fact, all of my adult life. And I work with people around integration stuff a lot. So post-trip integration work. I do a lot of work with people, coaching people who are also psychonauts themselves, who have had these big breakthrough experiences and want to plug that more into their lives. So if that's something you're interested in, or if you're interested in personal growth, spirituality, personal transformation, psychedelics, psychological healing, this is all the kind of stuff we talk about here on the channel. So please, settle in, get something, tasty to drink, and let's go ahead and talk about it here. So, like I said, today's video is off the cuff. Quite frankly, I'm a little bit groggy. I'm in a new space here, just set up my studio out here in the living room, as you can see. Hopefully it's a little more of an interesting view than my bedroom was. And I haven't really kind of put this into a concise set. So I've tried to shoot this video a couple times here, but I'm going to try and keep this clear to the point, but also kind of allow myself to explore the topic. So hopefully you get some value out of this. Hopefully this works for you, even if I ramble and this ends up being 20 or 30 minutes. So the topic is social anxiety. I've been kind of going back through all my analytics on my channel, trying to figure out what connects with people the most, which videos have performed the best, which do you guys like the most, which resonates, which one's getting the most comments, the most views, all that kind of stuff. And just kind of really getting a sense of, who my audience is, who you guys are. And since I started this channel sharing about a breakthrough I had with social anxiety, which I will leave a card for above here, this is kind of one of the topics we work with. And since I work with a lot of people who have phobias, that they want to get over, anxiety issues, this is something I do with my clients a lot, something I'm very familiar with. That's kind of part of this channel. So I wanted to just kind of touch base. And this isn't really about psychedelics today. We're not really talking about, far out crazy experiences, or, smoking DMT or talking to aliens or anything like that. Today is just something really grounded and practical that I want you to know for your own healing. So I'm going to kind of give you a bit of the punchline up front for anyone who's impatient here. And then I'll kind of unpack it more and explain it to you so it makes more sense. So here's the punchline, really. If you are interested in resolving your own social anxiety, you're struggling with it, maybe you're in a place where you're kind of avoidant of people and you've gotten used to that and you kind of like it, and you're like, I don't really like people, I don't like the anxiety part, but I'm fine being alone, I'm fine being away from people. Or if you're somebody who, struggles with it and you want to like people, but you just get re-triggered every time you're in a social interaction. Here's the thing I want you to know. This might seem counterintuitive. A lot of people who are looking to resolve social anxiety are coming at it from the angle of hoping they can do therapy to resolve it and then be social. And what I found is that, and there's a reason for this. So the punchline is that being social is the thing that will heal you. And I'm not saying that in the exposure therapy sense, in the phobia sense, where it's like, oh, if you're afraid of elevators, getting on an elevator is what's going to cure you. Although there's truth to that too. And exposure therapy is a piece of personal growth and personal healing, without a doubt. What I'm talking about today is part of what's called the Polyvagal Theory, for anyone who might be familiar with it. And if not, I'm about to explain it to you in more depth. But the punchline with the Polyvagal Theory is that all healing for the nervous system, for the body, for the mind. So I don't care if you're clearing trauma from the past and letting go of past trauma, if you want to get over any anxiety issue, any depression issue, any kind of hang up you have, the reset for your nervous system to allow itself to fully heal, and this includes even physical healing. This includes, just using your body, your deep kind of nervous system's healing capacity. All of that is tied to the vagus nerve, the polyvagal theory. And the punchline of the vagus nerve is that the healing part is in the social brain. So it is through using the social brain that we heal our bodies, heal our history, heal our past, heal our anxiety, and heal our depression. So that's the punchline. And now let me kind of unpack that for you and explain how that works, why it works that way, and different ways you can go about that. Because I get it. Like, if that's the case, if part of how we heal is by using the social brain, but generally speaking, for someone with social anxiety, we are in a place where that's not going to work for us because we get triggered every time we're in a social interaction. So the very thing that is the thing that would heal us has become the thing that is, a wound for us, right? That is our stumbling point or our pain point. Or maybe, you have so much trauma around socialization. Maybe you didn't have parents that created good attachment for you, so you have attachment issues. Or maybe you've just been exposed to an inordinate, unfair amount of kind of gross people in your life who are poorly socialized themselves, or are sociopathic or narcissistic. All of that's totally possible, right? So maybe you've been exposed socially in some way that's created enough wounding for you that the very thing that you need in order to heal is now where the wound is, where the trigger is. So this creates this like pickle, right? It creates this conundrum, like, how do I heal? How do I get to the thing that heals me if the thing that getting there is what wounds me further, right? So this is the problem. This is kind of the deeper problem of social anxiety. This is like at the heart of really what's going on. And for a lot of people, it's like we feel that internally. We feel that kind of like tension, because if you think about it, like why is there even an issue around socializing? Like, if we weren't built to socialize, there would be no struggle. If we weren't built to socialize, we wouldn't want to resolve that. We'd just be like, oh God, that's terrible. But generally speaking, for most people with social anxiety, what you find is that there's a tension there. There's an inner conflict there, because it's like, I know I need to socialize to be functional in society. I know that maybe even some part of me at a deeper level wants to be social, wants to socialize in the right way, with the right people, in a way that feels good, in a way that's fun, in a way that's safe, in a way that's interesting. But I can't have that for whatever reason, right? So there's this tension there. And that's because we are wired evolutionarily to be social creatures, right? So human beings essentially, for most of our evolutionary history, lived in small groups, what they call the Dunbar number, under the Dunbar number, which I just saw a thing, they were saying it's something like 200 to 500 people. They used to say 150, but small groups, let's say, of under 500 people, right? Small tribes where you knew everybody, and we were kind of nomadic, and we hunted together, and we lived together, and we were social constantly. And being kind of, out of the group, being outcasts and being a hermit and isolated alone in nature, generally for most human beings throughout history, meant death. So we're deeply wired to be social. We're deeply wired. It's like part of the fabric of being a human being is to be a social being, right? And at the same time, again, when that's been wounded, when that's been impacted negatively in some way, then that screws, with our ability to self-regulate, to heal, to offload the stress of the past and not collapse it with the present and let it go, right? So this is the pickle with social anxiety. And I think a lot of people who deal with social anxiety feel like, especially in this day and age where we're all locked inside, in a large percentage anyways, even before the coronavirus and the pandemic and all the, lockdowns, we were still mostly, a lot of us are shut-ins. A lot of us don't socialize enough. A lot of us don't get out. A lot of us don't interact. And we would like to think if you're struggling with social anxiety, it's very common to think, oh, that's better. My life is better this way. I want it to be that way. I'd rather avoid people. I'd rather, yada, yada, yada. But by doing that, you are using your social nervous system less, social brain less, which means that you can't run it long enough to offload and discharge the trauma, the anxiety, the fear, the depression, the stress, the old experiences that are coloring your current experience. You can't offload that as easily if you're not socializing. So I want to kind of just make this point with you and kind of put that out there for you, that at some point, for you to heal social anxiety, part of what that's going to entail is socializing. Now, are there ways that you can offload some of that, through working with the vagus nerve ahead of time? Yes, there are. And that's stuff I do with my clients. That's stuff I teach. I'm still debating about which course I want to do, but I'll be making a course and there'll be content about that in the course. Are there ways that you can use hypnosis and hypnotherapy to also shift yourself so that your unconscious mind is operating in a different paradigm when you go out and you're either less triggered, like instead of being triggered at 8, you're triggered at like a 2, or just not triggered altogether? Yes, that's also possible. And that can kind of get the ball rolling for you, getting comfortable again, being social. There's also some weird, freaky self-regulation techniques I've learned. I'm excited about this, so I'm kind of interrupting the last idea there and just sharing with you that I've discovered from playing with this kind of polyvagal theory. So there are ways that you can even use things like emoting by yourself to get back into the social brain and offload and discharge a lot of this anxiety. So that's all stuff I'll be teaching you, I'll be talking more about, but I want to just kind of put a bug in your ear, plant the seed for you, get you thinking about the reality that in order to let go of social anxiety, if that's what you're dealing with, that at some point you're going to have to use your social brain, because that's the valve, that's the throughput, the bottleneck, the mechanism from which you're able to discharge the trauma, the stress, the worry, the fear, the pain, the past. It is what it is. It's how we're built. So I want to just put that out there for you so okay, part of my healing involves being social. So how do we get you discharging enough of it that you're okay with that? Because if you have these, what are called negative anchors, right, in NLP, which are basically you've had negative experiences that create imprints on you enough that you don't, that they shape your perception of that part of your life. So if you have negative imprints about socialization, again, maybe you had, issues with early attachment, your parents, weren't attuned to you, weren't responsive to you, or were abusive to you in some way, which is unfortunately super common in this world. That's another video in and of itself, or if you, whatever, were teased a lot, bullied a lot, or, whatever. I mean, there's so many different ways we can have people wound us through social interaction in this world. And I'm sorry it's that way. It is that way. And you're not crazy for having that experience. Most of us do. But it can create a negative anchor. It can create this negative kind of impact, that kind of impression that stays with you, right? And so the unconscious mind kind of holds on to that, reloops that over and over. So one of the things we can do is neutralize those anchors so that the memories are there, but they just don't hold any emotional charge anymore. Like you can remember whatever, the schoolyard bully or the time, XYZ happened, but it just doesn't bring up a feeling in you. Or you can even remember, yesterday or last week when you went to the the hipster coffee shop and the barista was rude and cold and condescending to you, and it doesn't hold a charge for you, right? And then through doing that, what we can do is then teach the nervous system to respond that way in present time and in the future, to the point that it just doesn't become an issue, so that you're not allowing other people's attempts or unconsciousness or whatever it is to impact your sense of self enough that it impacts your desire to be social, which impacts your capacity for self-healing and releasing this and moving forward. So I hope that's making sense so far. So just quick little thing about polyvagal theory so that you know more about it, because I think it's interesting. I think it's valuable for you to know. And then I'll just go ahead and wrap the video and let this be what it is. So polyvagal theory is one of the many kind of pieces I work with in the work I do. And the basic idea is that we have this nerve. That's not an idea. That's a fact. We have a nerve. It's the longest nerve that runs through the center of our body, from our brain down through, our heart and our stomach and our liver, and, innervates down into all of our organs, right? And down through our whole body. But the central nerve is kind of the pathway between the body and the brain. And this is what's called the vagus, VAGUS nerve. And it is responsible for so much of the function of our nervous system and the function of our body. So the quality of your vagus nerve is the quality of your sense of well-being, like point blank. And the interesting thing about the vagus nerve is that it has evolved in layers as we've evolved. So this is older than human beings. This is older than mammals. This goes way back in the evolutionary tree, way back. The vagus nerve has been there. So it's in all the animals around us for the most part. And the vagus nerve, so it has these layers to it. And so depending on where we go in the vagus nerve, we have different responses. So trauma, fear, stress, anxiety gets stored in the body as fight or flight, freeze, fall on the floor, PTSD responses in different parts of the vagus nerve. So when we stimulate the vagus nerve and we move the energy from these kind of deeper parts of the vagus nerve up through the social brain, out of the nervous system, and it can go out. So one of the ways that you know where you are with your vagus nerve, first of all, if you have that experience, you've probably had this experience of you're in a safe situation, or you're trying, let's put it like this, you're trying to be connective, to share, to communicate, to whatever, but you feel maybe a little heavy, your vibe is a little off, or a little moody, or a little dark, or a little pessimistic, or a little negative. You don't know why, and it's kind of built into you, and you don't know how to get it out, and it's just there, and maybe you're a little embarrassed about it, but there's kind of like a dark off energy to your vibe. Or maybe it's anxious for some people, so maybe you're in a situation that's totally fine, but a lot of people around you kind of read off of you this kind of like wired, anxious, stressed out energy, and you don't know why, and you know it's there, but you can't stop doing it. It's just in there. What that probably is, I can't say for sure. I'm not omniscient, but what it probably is energy that's stuck in your vagus nerve, deeper down in your nervous system, that's been stored and hasn't had a way out. Now, you can release that again through being social, by using the social brain. And there's some cues to know whether or not you're in the social brain. So the social brain ties into the parasympathetic nervous system, which is kind of your rest and relax and restore nervous system. So generally speaking, When a person is in the social brain, you'll notice that they have lots of facial expressions. They listen clearly, they hear more details, they are more tuned to micro expressions on other people's, faces and their expressiveness. You'll hear highs and lows in the voice, so you'll hear more expressiveness in the way the person talks. Their body language is bigger, it's more open, their muscle tone seems relaxed. By contrast, for people who are in some sort of kind of trauma state or fight or flight state or threat state, you'll notice a few things. First of all, you'll notice that their voice goes very monotone. And you might notice this in yourself. This is why I'm sharing this. Their voice goes very monotone. They don't go very high or low. They just kind of say the same thing. The cadence is very even. It's very stiff. It's very flat. And you'll notice this when people want to seem threatening. That's what they do, right? When a person wants to flex on you, what they do, they get serious. Their voice becomes very flat. There's less inflection. Also, they stop emoting with their face. They stop making kind of subtle facial gestures. So same thing. And what does this do? This stores stress in the body. This is the nervous system shifting into a fight or flight kind of mode. So you'll notice when you're in the social nervous system, more facial expressions, more ability to listen and hear. You'll notice things like more saliva in your mouth when you're relaxed. You'll notice things like, vocal tonality goes up and down, et cetera, et cetera. So these are all things you can use to also start to offload stress. So you can do the same thing. You can, start to listen more closely. You can start to make facial expressions. You can start to, use more vocal kind of pitch tonality shifts so that you're not kind of reinforcing this kind of structure that the nervous system does that holds the stress in. So this is a really easy way to tell whether or not you're in fight or flight. And you'll notice when you're out and about, again, if you have social anxiety and you're dealing with that, you'll notice when you go out and when you're interacting with people that friendly people tend to be very open. They tend to be very relaxed. They tend to allow their facial expressions to move out. They tend to have their vocal tonality go up and down. These are the people that make us feel good usually, right? Why is that? Because they're communicating that they're in the social brain, that they're not in fight or flight. They're sending you safety signals, right? By contrast, when someone is quiet, tight-lipped, doesn't say much, doesn't really make any facial expressions, they might be feeling defensive, but also what they're sending at the same time is a signal of threat. And it's really hard to tell what's what. So I just want to kind of put that out there for you. So now you know a little bit more about one of the ways that you can start to heal your own social anxiety. You can start to heal it through engaging the social brain. So part of the work I do, with clients one-on-one is helping them tonify the vagus nerve, release the stress out of the vagus nerve, release the stress out of the body. And by the way, most of these exercises don't equate to like a big cathartic release, in case that's what you're wondering. If I stimulate the vagus nerve, am I going to bust out in tears and fall over and feel all the trauma I've been, bottling up for 30 years? Not necessarily. Maybe sometimes that can happen, but generally speaking, in my experience working with myself, working with people, a lot of times they just sense this, it's just a relief. It's just a dropping of whatever weight we might have been carrying that we didn't even know we were storing in our body. And then that turns into a release that sometimes can turn into insights that kind of well up and just kind of move through you, but they don't necessarily have to be big emotions. So I wouldn't be terrified of the work in that way. But this is work I do with my clients. We will work on the vagus nerve as a way to offload the stress and create the spaciousness to then repattern the brain with hypnosis, NLP, coaching, that kind of work. So this is something I want you to know, because I get it. I know what it feels like to feel afraid to go outside. I know what it feels like to want to connect with people and then get triggered when you try to. I know what it feels like to have an awkward social interaction because I'm awkward. And then, I carry that with me afterwards. Maybe there's someone I wanted to connect with and they were weird because I was weird. And then, I'm ruminating on it. I know how that goes. I get it. And so I want you to know that this mechanism of socialization is your pathway out. It is your pathway of healing. And so we've got to neutralize all those anchors around being social from your past that may be causing you kind of the hesitation to become social, so that you can become social, so that you can offload more of it. It's an upward spiral. It's a positive loop you want to get into of releasing and self-regulating and socializing. And that socializing also helps you to release and self-regulate, et cetera, et cetera. The good news about this for anyone, by the way, I'm kind of rambling here as I do about, release through the vagus nerve. Another great thing, you don't have to be social with a lot of people. It can just be one person. And for a lot of people, they feel like, and this is maybe another video I'll do about venting, a lot of people feel like in order to kind of let the stress go out of their nervous system, that the way they do that socially is through commiserating and venting and kind of complaining. And if that's something you don't want to deal with or you don't want to do because you might be embarrassed about it, you don't have to. I also want you to know, just by socializing, just by using your kind of social brain, you end up releasing. Even if you're talking about movies or you're talking about, whatever, something that's not triggering at all, whatever you're interested in, it still works just the same. Even fluff, even small talk, even a nice day out, yeah, the weather's great, all of that still helps you to release the stress and regulate yourself, co-regulate yourself. So I just want to put all this out there as pieces of empowerment, pieces of healing for you, so that you have a sense that, hey, if I want to heal my nervous system, I want to heal the social anxiety, it's probably going to entail being social at some point. I want you to know that, because I feel like a lot of people have an expectation that they can just kind of, be healed without being social. And unfortunately, it doesn't seem to work that way. And yes, you can kind of preempt that and do healing work ahead of it. But at some point, you're going to want to be social, because that is part of how we co-regulate as human beings. Anyways, I have more to say about, toxic social environments and how we end up in these kind of states, in these spaces. I'll save that for another video, because I'm already 30 minutes deep on this one. I hope you enjoyed it. If this resonates for you, if this is an aha moment, or an affirmation of something you sensed, or is somehow just the key that you needed, do me a favor, hit the like button to let the algorithm know to share this with other people. Comment down below. I would love to see your experience, your thoughts, your impressions. I want to know who you are, who's watching me, what's your experience, what do you need help with, what do you need healing with, what are your interests? Let me know down below. I would be very interested. All right, much love. All the best to you. I have more videos coming your way soon. So thanks for watching, and take care of yourself, and I'll see you soon.